Woman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too have like pages of questions. So I'm just going to put it out there. I'm at a no, almost a hell no. So y'all have to get me to a yes, okay? In some areas of this bill, there's language that was in the Raiders deal that they received. In other areas, vastly different than what the Raiders had. The Raiders came to this state with a huge fan base. We had a lot of people that would make the travel to California to see the Raiders. I don't see that happening for the A's. Their average attendance is below 9,000 per game. So tell me how you got to the number that you're thinking are going to come here. I know people come to Vegas, right? But you want to come to see either your team playing, but if they're playing someone you don't like, you don't make that extra expense. So how did you get to that calculation? Because even in they had the lowest attendance in 2022, they were under 8,000 in 2022. So how did you get to that attendance number? And that's what you're basing the income coming into the state on.
Chairwoman Monroe Moreno, for the record, Jeremy Aguero, their attendance is abysmal now in Oakland. I don't think there's any illusion. I don't think we should sugarcoat that in any way, shape, or form. You're 100% right. So that is exactly why I think the A's are looking to find a new home. They want to bring that their fan base. They want to create new opportunities, create a new venue. We can look around a number of sports. I think about what happened in Cleveland. I think about what happened in Atlanta with what they developed. By building a new ballpark and by bringing a new reason, they stimulated increased activity for those facilities. We think about what we're doing right now for sports that are coming to Las Vegas. You bring your sporting event to Las Vegas, more people are going to attend that sporting event. And you're right, there's no doubt about it that the Las Vegas Raiders are an incredible success story for us in terms of not only creating fandom, but also bringing folks from out of town. But I don't think we want to dismiss what the Golden Knights have been able to do. Right? As much as we would like to believe that every person sitting there cheering in that arena are from Las Vegas, many of them are not, right? There's lots of folks that come from out of town. As a matter of fact, when you talk to some of the hotel operators in and around that, there's lots of folks that come into town just because the event took place and may not even go to the event. We've seen it with boxing. We've seen it with UFC. We've seen it in other areas. The hope is that we'll see it here as well. As I mentioned to Speaker Yeager, the expectation here is not that the A's are going to be the highest attended baseball team anywhere in Major League Baseball. The hope here is that they will be, the expectation, I should say here, is that they will be at the 50th percentile relative to that. Now, they are building a facility around that relative size. And I think that is a very reasonable expectation. And the work that's been done by CSL, who's probably the foremost expert in these analysis anywhere in the United States, reviewed by Goldman Sachs, reviewed by Hobbs, Ong and Associates, reviewed by PFM, all of which you went through those exercises, felt like the assumptions that were driving that model were reasonable. I agree. I do think they're reasonable. The second half of your question really asks, can we really expect people to get on a plane or get in a car and come and see their team play? And I don't know whether the A's are going to have the ability. They've got a lot of work to do. But I would also suggest that there is an alignment in interest here, right? They are putting $1.1 billion into this facility and probably going to cost them more than that when you think about the cost of moving a team and all the things that are out there. I mean, they have a pretty strong incentive to make sure that they're putting a quality product on the field. And what I can tell you from the models that I've looked at and the elements that are there, the assumptions that they're making in terms of increasing their investment in the team are substantial. Beyond that, there's also been changes in Major League Baseball that I think are important. And some of those the commissioner has talked about in terms of improving the game and making it more spectator-friendly, all those type of things. But I think beyond that, the change to the schedule is what may very well benefit our community more than anything else. The schedule has been changed such that every team plays every other team at home every other year. Instead of everybody playing the folks in their conference, their division, multiple times, the A's will play the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox at home at least every other year. And the draw that comes with those other fans from those other teams' willingness to come in, I think is significant. You combine that with survey data that have said that's exactly what they're saying they're willing to do. It seems reasonable to expect that the A's will be able to hit those numbers, and that if they're even close to what other sports teams have been able to do and other events have been able to do when they come to Las Vegas, I think those incremental visitation numbers are a fair assessment of what we think can actually be achieved.
And Chairman Moreno, if I could just add, I think it's an important question. There's kind of two pieces to the answer, too, and Jeremy has dealt with both of them, but I want to just kind of point out the separation. One is the revenue that will be generated by attendees at the game that will go to pay off the bonds. And it's why that coverage ratio is 2 times what is necessary in order to pay off those bonds. So in order to pay the bonds off, that has been taken into consideration. That safety has been built into this proposal. On the benefit to both state and local governments that is $53 million a year, that's solely based on those 405,000 visitors who will come to Vegas because of the events. So if we get 7,500 people a game, we're there that have come because of the game in the stadium. So that's what that projection is. So it's kind of two different answers to that important question.
Thank you, and I appreciate the answer, but when we talk about the Golden Knights, the Raiders, and this stadium, the Golden Knights didn't cost the taxpayers a dime, right? They came here, and they came at a time where we were hurting as a state, and they became Nevada's team, Vegas's team. Didn't cost us a dime. This is different. So I think it's kind of apples and oranges in that comparison. In Section 23 of the bill, with the community benefits agreement, the details of the agreement are not in legislation, which is probably good because we may have to make adjustments along the line. But what teeth does that agreement have? And what did the A's owners do for the community in Oakland? Because I got to tell you, as my colleague said, we're getting emails, but I got family that live in the Oakland area. They hate the A's. They do not feel that the A's have done enough for their community. So what investments did they make in Oakland for the community that they'll replicate here or even do much better, that if they come here, Nevadans don't feel the way Californians, Oakland, Vallejo folks feel about the team now? What teeth will this have that will be able to hold them to it?
Chairman Moreno, Steve Hill, that will need to be built into that community benefit agreement as we work through that process in a public setting. As I mentioned earlier, that was just not the structure under the Raiders deal. So that will have to be a part of that conversation that we'll have over the next year. I think what the A's are willing to do in the community is really a question that we would need to ask them. I don't feel like I can speak for them on that subject right now.
And I get 3 questions since I'm her vice chair. On page 18 of your PowerPoint, when you look at the public dollars that are going in, the size of the stadium, we're asking Nevadans to put in a huge amount for one of the smallest stadiums. Why the huge cost for a much smaller stadium than other states?
Madam Vice Chair, for the record, Jeremy Aguero. I mean, some of it just has to do with time, right? Things are more expensive now than they were before. And so that's some of the costs associated. They're also building what is a phenomenal asset as well. And so we're we, the state of Nevada, are requiring a very high standard in terms of the facility that's to be constructed. Combination of both that cost and that time is what you're looking at here.
Thank you, and I do get one more. The $1.1 million that the A's are putting up, is that simply for the payment of the land, or are there other infrastructure improvements that will come along with that?
Madam Vice Chair, for the record, Jeremy Aguero, I think you meant $1.1 billion. That is for the cost of the construction of the physical asset. That does not include the cost of land acquisition. That does not include the cost of the relocation of the actual team itself to Las Vegas.
And that relocation fee is?
The relocation fee, the Commissioner of Baseball has at least suggested that if the state of Nevada can get a public-private partnership that is acceptable to Major League Baseball, to everyone, that the relocation fee that would be traditionally provided from a team moving from one location to another would potentially be waived. They have not said that yet. They're talking about meeting next month, and I think that's certainly something that we all should hope for. But that's only the relocation fee that's charged by Major League Baseball, right? They also have to move a business from California to Nevada, and so there will be some cost associated with that, and that's really what I was alluding to.
But you didn't say what that relocation fee is.
Oh, look, I'll tell you, when I get that question from time to time in terms of what the relocation fee would be, the best ballpark numbers that I've received is something on the order of $300 million is the relocation fee. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to hide the ball with you, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And with that, I'll go to Assemblyman O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. You know, Nevada is truly a gaming state, and we've proven it several times. We gambled on Tesla.